congratulations. We have to get your microphone. We thought you were coming from there.
Oh,
sorry. But it's not really a problem, so. Okay.
So first I'd like to call the cast here in front, the great Ocil Keje, Indira Nascimento, Chukudi Iwudi, who made this possible. Marie-Pierre Maciá, Isis Valenzuela, Renata Volter, John Yang Jang. Guys, please come. I really want to hear. Juliana Ponaro, Renata Volter, Abner Pastor. I think that's it. And now the rest of the crew, please, as well. It's going to be a lot of people, guys. Sorry, but you came in big numbers. So everyone, please come. Léo Bittencourt, Julia Morat, Chioma Thompson, Chica Anado. Who else? Let me just say the names as they come, because I think that would be great. Fernanda. Claire Guedea, of course. Sorry, Claire. Naomi as well, Roberto Winter, our great editor Isabelle de Dieu, Chica said Naomi, everyone please. Simone, Cris Rose, Preta Ferreira, our wonderful music composer Fleming Notkrog, Lucas, our producer, and Fernanda Chimba, our production designer. Fernanda, our producer as well. I think I named everyone, right? Did I forget someone? Okay, great. Roberto Winter, I think I said Roberto, right? Yeah, I did. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. This is the wonderful crew that made this film possible. So we're opening up now for discussion. Yeah, please.
Maybe before we ask the audience, let me start with, of course, thank you for this film on communication and on migration and on racism and on finding your identity. There are so many subjects in your film, and together with this architecture that I've never seen like this about Sao Paulo, so everything is quite unique, the way you tell it and what you tell, so maybe something about the way, how the film came to you, how the story came to you.
For some reason, for a long time, I've wanted to make a film about being a foreigner. I had that experience in my life of living abroad, and I remember it was extremely strong and extremely something that really marked me, I think, for my life. And I think there were two different desires. One was this, and the other was when I was away from Sao Paulo. I missed Sao Paulo very, very much. You know, it was weird because people don't usually miss Sao Paulo. It's a city that people usually feel glad to be away, and I really missed it. And so I wanted to do these two things in one. So to have a film about being a foreigner and also to shoot it in Sao Paulo. And together with Maíra Biller, who unfortunately is not here, who wrote the original story with me, we started to research what kind of groups could represent that. And we came across downtown Sao Paulo and the recent African migration that was happening there at the moment. We didn't know much about it. And we had this idea, which I think was very good, that we decided to start teaching Portuguese in a cultural center right by it, pro bono, and we just put, posters out and said free Portuguese lessons. And a lot of people showed up, and we stayed doing that for 6 months. And that really kind of made our connection with the society, with the community, and we understood that, not only they were not African, they were Igbo from Nigeria, and there was a very particular culture going on, and that really marveled us, and we started to research and started to hear stories. And then we got a grant from the city, and we traveled to Nigeria, to Igbo land, and that's when the whole research continued. And at one point over there, a guy called, I remember, Emeka Ogbo, which is actually the name of a character that I put, he told me about this guy in London he met who was trying to predict horse races, how he was developing the system, and that sometimes he won, sometimes he didn't win, but he was very sure he was eventually going to get there. And that sparked a light. I think that was the original idea, and from there other things, other stories came together, and we had a wonderful team of scriptwriters to put it all in a single film.
And it fits so well.
Thank you.
And it fits so well, of course, because mathematics is also a language, and you use it as like music or like sex, and all these languages are in there. But how did you shoot it then with your with your actors? Because they really have different languages. Maybe they can also say something about that.
Oh, that'd be great. I'll see.
Well, fortunately I speak English, so I could understand Matias from the very beginning. But I guess the difficult part was when I realized that myself and Injira were going to be working together, and she doesn't speak English and I don't speak Portuguese, and that sort of lends to some difficulty to trying to figure it out, but it also kept the reality of the script, in terms of the text that we're discussing, and getting across, communicating with each other. And so we decided to leave it that way, and under the able hands of Matias, we went through it. And with the rest of the team, there are folks who, we didn't understand each other, but we spoke the language of film, and so it was easy to get across.
Bom, primeiramente, estou muito feliz de estar aqui e poder apresentar esse filme para vocês. Eu acho que tem uma coisa muito interessante, que é o que você falou da linguagem do cinema. A gente fala a linguagem do cinema porque a gente é apaixonado por isso. E foi muito interessante perceber.
First of all, I'm really delighted to be here and to present you the film. And I would like to follow up on what Uke just said about not speaking the language. Well, we speak the language of cinema.
Sim, porque a gente pôde perceber que a comunicação se dá para além da linguagem, assim, para além da fala, né, para além das palavras. E isso foi muito interessante. A gente consegue se comunicar mesmo quando a gente não fala a mesma língua.
We realize that communication goes beyond words, beyond what we have to say in a film, beyond the language, and so we started to communicate.
A gente se comunica com a linguagem dos sentimentos, né, das intenções, da percepção, e eu acho que isso ficou muito claro no nosso trabalho, e a gente foi muito bem dirigido e direcionado, então funcionou.
We spoke through the language of feelings, of intentions, of passion, and we also had someone who was directing us really well, so it really worked.
I don't speak English, Igbo, or Portuguese very well. It was, I think the best way to describe this was the whole experience of how I got involved in this. I was talking about being a foreigner somewhere. I was doing a play that had stuck with a Belgian director, Ivo van Ho, working in Amsterdam at the time, and I got this random message, and I was sent the final scene. That's all, nothing else. I still don't understand that final scene. And he sent it, and I had 1 day left in the deadline to send the tape to him, but it was the morning after we had just opened the show in Amsterdam, so I was still drunk. And so I did this language which I didn't understand, and the poor actress who came to help me tape it was still drunk also. And we're looking at this language with this lyricism and this strange stuff. And I said to her, I don't quite understand this, but I feel this could be quite interesting. And we went through it in this haze, just trusting that there was a message beyond what we were saying, and just did it. Do you know what I mean? Because it was not an A to B to C sort of script at all. I had a session with Roberto, who talked to me all about quantum mechanics, and I just grinned at him as he talked about it, because I still don't understand it. But I think what was so beautiful, and I'm also Igbo, and I understand it but don't speak it great, so I had to relearn my own language. And I think that's what's so amazing about this piece, is that we're all foreigners, but we're also all figuring each other out. And that's what makes us actually get closer to each other, because none of us own anything we think we own. So that was the story.
Thank you so much. Maybe you have questions, because we have some microphone prepared for you. Yeah, there's somebody. Mahali.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm here. I want to thank you, because I write for African Refugee News. And this is the first time I see an African that can take a plane and go to Brazil to study and not traveling like, let's say, a refugee. This was very good. But then my question goes to São Paulo. These old buildings that seems to speak about the poverty of the people, about all what is happening in Brazil. How did you manage to take this beautiful building, this art deco, you know, like this apartment that looks like pigeonholes, but they're really good.
Maybe Leo can help me a little bit here. I'll start and then you continue. Leo is the photographer. To make this film possible. I think I usually, and I did that with my short film before, I have a weird tendency of thinking of locations before I think of stories. So a lot of times I see a location and I say, well, I want to shoot something here, you know, and I'll figure out the story, but I want to shoot in this place. And so in a lot of ways, the script was done with the locations kind of pre-selected even before we had an overall story. That goes for Galeria Presidente, that goes for several different places. And São Paulo is known worldwide as an extremely ugly city. And I always thought that was extremely unfair to the city, because it can be very ugly, yes, but it has jewels of architecture. And not only, you know, I'm not only talking about architecture, which I'm interested, but more than architecture, of urbanism, you know, of how the city is built, how the curves and the lines of the city are seen. And I was really glad that we were able to capture that. And Leo is from Rio, which I think makes him a foreigner in a way to São Paulo as well. So that helped.
But yes, I'm a little bit nervous and my English is not good, so I asked to Matias to help me. Tá bom, perfeito. Tinha um desafio muito grande nesse filme, que era como construir essas imagens acompanhando o desenvolvimento da história.
There was a huge challenge in this film, which was to construct these images following the development of the story itself.
Então, bem no início do processo, junto com Matias e Kutimba, a gente que é o diretor de arte, nós pensamos que o filme começaria a partir de um olhar do Ikena. Apesar de vocês, como espectadores, estivessem começando a assistir o filme pelo Amadi, é como se nós pensássemos o filme como se fosse pelo olhar do Ikena.
So we had this huge challenge, and together with Matias and Chimba, who is the art director, we wanted the film to start through the eyes, through the angle of Ikena.
Então, por isso decidimos escolher o enquadramento 4x3 e o enquadramento estranho, que que forçasse a ser um olhar um pouco de cima, um olhar que vê mais do que o personagem, do que o Amadi, que nós estamos seguindo, e que também olha para esses espaços, principalmente, de uma forma diferente. Então, foi tentando buscar cada vez mais como se fosse uma presença do Ikena sobre a cidade. E por isso esse enquadramento, e por isso essa escolha de decupagem.
So we decided to take a 4x3 frame, and it might sound curious to you, but we didn't want to show it through the eyes of Amadi. We wanted to show it through the gaze of Ikena, looking downwards. And so this is why we chose this 4x3 frame. Welcome.
Eu vou completar também em português.
And I'll follow up on that.
E acho que revendo o filme, né, depois de a gente ter construído, né, o filme como toda, a minha sensação ainda é de um filme novo a cada vez que a gente revê, porque a gente reviu no Brasil há mais ou menos 2 ou 3 meses.
So when seeing the film again, I have the feeling that I'm watching a new film. We saw it the last time 2 or 3 months ago in Brazil, and so whenever I see it again, I have the feeling that I'm watching a new film.
E principalmente a sensação de que a gente também fez um filme de ficção científica. Porque tem uma relação muito grande com a magia, mas também com a tecnologia, o pensamento da matemática. Assim, a gente tem diversas camadas que são colocadas pelos personagens, mas muito dessa relação do espelho, onde estão colocados frente a frente o Ikena e a magia. E muitos espelhos.
Okay. Peraí, deixa eu me lembrar. It's a sci-fi film, but it's also a film that deals with technology, with poetry, with magic, and it's a film that has various layers. And whenever we show it, it's a kind of a mirror that reflects images. In this case, it's the image of Ikena and the image of Amadi, and vice versa.
Boa noite a todas as pessoas presentes. Estou muito feliz de estar aqui. Na verdade, estar aqui hoje é estar em liberdade.
Thank you to all of you for being here. I'm very happy to be here, and actually being here is being in freedom.
A gente vem enfrentando um momento muito difícil no Brasil e a arte, a cultura como todo está sendo muito atacada porque é o que liberta as pessoas.
We're going through very hard times in Brazil. Art, culture are under attack. And why are they under attack? Because these are the things that free people.
Eu sou liderança de movimento de moradia na cidade de São Paulo. Eu luto por direitos constitucionais para trabalhadores de baixa renda. E o processo desse filme com o movimento social foi muito intenso.
So I work with people, renters, people who inhabit flats, and I work also for social movements. I try to get the constitutional rights of people who have low income, and this film really has an impact.
O Matias teve um olhar muito bonito ao olhar para o movimento de moradia como aquelas pessoas, enxergar a capacidade daquelas pessoas que ali viviam e enxergar dentro do filme o refúgio dentro dos movimentos de moradia, porque dentro dos movimentos de moradia muitos refugiados procuram esses movimentos para morar no Brasil. Chama-se MSTC, Movimento Sem Teto do Centro.
So this movement I work for are for people who occupy, who are squatters, people who have no legal roof. And Matias had a very beautiful look into the plight of these people.
E logo depois eu fui presa.
I was arrested shortly afterwards.
Acusada de terrorismo.
I was accused of terrorist activities.
Por lutar por esses direitos constitucionais para trabalhadores de baixa renda, por moradia digna.
For fighting so that people who get low income, workers who get really a low salary have access to proper living. I was arrested for that.
E eu ainda não estou livre, né? Porque ainda vai haver um julgamento e esse processo ainda corre. E para eu estar aqui hoje foi um processo muito longo. A autorização judicial teve que ocorrer. E estou muito grata ao Matias e toda a equipe do filme, porque estar aqui hoje é sinal de liberdade.
I'm not out of the woods yet. The court case is still ongoing. I mean, there will still be a trial. It was very hard to get the authorization to be here, and that's why I'm ever so thankful to Matias, because being here is breathing freedom, liberty.
Yes, there's another question in the first row.
É até difícil fazer uma pergunta depois desse depoimento. Parabéns pelo filme, de qualquer forma, boa sorte, Petra. O filme fala de muitas coisas, mas uma das coisas que acho que mais marcou foi a questão familiar. Né? Parece que no background, no hintergrund, está sempre essa questão dos irmãos, né? Um irmão procurando o outro, a mãe desesperada procurando o irmão também. E no final, pelo menos foi o que passou para mim, parece que eles trocam de lugar, né? Quer dizer, primeiro essa coisa do primogênito, que ele tem que voltar para liderar a família na África. Eu acho que isso é uma coisa da cultura africana que talvez seja tão forte quanto é para a gente também no Brasil. E a minha impressão foi que no final eles meio trocam de lugar, quer dizer, o filho que procurou vira aquele que está falando, mãe, fica tranquila, nós estamos aqui, mas na verdade ele que daí não quer voltar. Tem alguma inspiração atrás disso? Foi alguma história que vocês viveram, específica? Como é que veio essa coisa da relação dos irmãos?
Let me just come in very quickly. So she started the question saying that it's hard to say something after having listened to Preta, and congratulations for your work, Petra. And now moving on to the film, I had the feeling that the film is about family issues, family ties, the relationship between the two siblings, the relationship to the mother, and I have the feeling that the brothers swap roles as the film ends. And I had the feeling that Amadi decided to stay, and it's Sikena who returns. Did I get that right?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's the part of the film that I think is more personal to me. I think that's behind a lot of my motivation to do the film overall, which is... I always thought a lot about the family and about how family can at the same time be liberating and oppressing, and how sometimes to find yourself you need to be away from family, and how that is really a two-way street. You know, the love you receive is also sometimes something that takes your breath away, and I have a younger brother, it's called Daniel, who couldn't be here tonight. But I think I always envied him in a way. Now not anymore, I think I got over it. But for a long time I envied what I saw him as more immune to the expectations that people put on him. And I think that was... At first it showed up as envy, and then I've kind of worked into admiration, I think, into admiring him. So I think throughout the film I relate much more to Ikena than as Amadi, myself, you know, like the way I see me. But at the same time, in the last scene when Amadi is freed, in a way, it's kind of something that I feel myself doing that, you know, when I see the scene. So it's beautiful for me. But as a person, I'm much more Ikena, I think, in a lot of ways. She's asking if the time that he breaks the guitar is the separation. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's when he becomes his own man, in a way.
So, are there any more questions?
Yeah.
I can't see you up there, but...
Hello.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. 2 questions, yeah? I'm not a Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese. For this guy, your uncle is here. The one who is wearing glasses, these 2 guys. Yeah, your uncle is around here. Your uncle is around?
No.
No, eh? Okay. And this another man who was living with your brother is around here?
What do you mean? If the actors are here?
Yeah, the actors.
No, unfortunately, no. Sorry, it took us a while.
The uncle and the white man, they were
the uncle is Barry Ike, which is an amazing actor. He lives in Brazil, and he couldn't make it to us tonight. And Paulo André, who plays Miro, is the white guy, the Hungarian guy, and he also couldn't make it.
Okay, that's my question.
Thank you.
But you just heard the music, right? I don't know what to say about it. I think when we first started working it out, the most important part was to figure out how to portray Amadi in music and how to help bringing out the feelings from Amadi's feelings, because Amadi the role is quite, since he's a younger brother who's suppressing his feelings a lot and suppressing I think, some of the very close relations to as you just talked about, these family relations. I mean, that was really the whole point of departure for the music. So we wanted to do something quite emotional for him, but it had to be also not, it had to be quite fragile and quite underscored. Another thing I really had fun doing for this was that we also needed some music to sort of relate to the equal part to Africa. And Matias was very insisting on, which I agreed with him, that we should not try to do anything African to it. We should not be too African, not to... it should more be towards the strangeness and also the spirituality that relates to Igbo and related to the two brothers. So we had to find out how can we do this in a very simple way. And I wrote this very simple melody that comes in several times. And I don't know if anyone can hear what kind of instrument it is, because that was the whole idea, that no one should really hear what it was. We were searching a lot, and we actually ended up finding a Lithuanian instrument called birbine, which is almost like a flute with drilled holes, but the mouthpiece is very close to a mouthpiece of a clarinet. So it has that kind of, sometimes it sounds like a clarinet. It has some kind of, it's something that we can relate to, something that we also in the Western world knows very well. But at the same time, it has these drilled holes, so you can bend the notes, and you get a little bit, more like in a more ethnic African way. So it was sort of, the purpose was to find something that could sort of be in between these two worlds. And it was really great to do this very simple thing.
And I think it's important, it's also good to say that, the other component of the soundtrack, which is the final song that the brothers sing together, was composed by Gerald Eze, who is a Nigerian Igbo and who who does a lot of research on traditional Igbo music. So the idea would be that it would be a music that would remind us of traditional Igbo music, even though it's through the lens of, let's say, High Life, which is a more modern variant, and also Uchenna Ikoni, who was a music consultant for the High Life and the traditional Igbo music. That's it.
It fits wonderfully. It sounds like question and answers, and it really fits together very well. So, if you don't have any more questions...
Thank you very much.